The Hawk, the Hound, and the Butterfly. Chapter 7. Helios, Part 1. The last of the nobility of King Midas's court stumbled out through the doors of Offa Hall, their voices still ringing out, as they had when they discussed the task the king had set his son and daughter. A fair and just decision, they'd all decided it was. Not one of them spoke against the king, even though none of them had a say in it anyway. Their concern lay heavily in the mysterious orbs kidnapping people throughout the kingdom. Concern for themselves. All their worries were suddenly forgotten when the king ordered supper to be brought in. Platters of exotic fruits and tiny baked goods were brought before them. Helios thought that the money spent on such delicacies might be better put towards arming their troops. As always, he kept his thoughts to himself. It was not his position to rule. No good would come of arguing with King Midas, especially with the number of wine bottles that sat empty at his feet. Helios had sent the mysterious orb off with one of the guards, a clever one named Sophia, to the smiths to be tested. No word had come back on it yet, but it would probably take them weeks to figure out what it was, and how it worked. The mysterious orb had briefly been discussed at the feast, but there were other pressing matters. Some lords wanted more land, some wanted to increase production hours, but all of them wanted their taxes lowered. They also wanted to be defended by invading Tekkens, but couldn't possibly send any more materials for the troops. The war had been costly, not only on resources, but also on Arcadia's people. Helios didn't want to lose any more of them. He'd failed his duty once, and it had fatal consequences on the ones he loved. He'd never let it happen again. The voices faded as the guests managed to find their way to their lodgings for the night. The king sat upon his throne, his head held up by one hand, leaning against the arm of his throne, a half-empty bottle of wine in the other hand. Helios sighed. He stepped up to the dais and took the bottle from Midas's hand. The king's eyes fluttered open. Helios, did you scare everyone away? King Midas's deep voice was slow and his speech slurred. His eyes stared off to the side. The lords and ladies have retired. The generals have gone back to the barracks, Helios said. He averted his eyes from the king and bit his bottom lip. It was not his place, he reminded himself. He was furious at what the king had done to his own children, but he was also scared for them. Helios caught the king's gaze and held it for a moment longer than he should have. You think I was too harsh on Apollo? King Midas said, wiping his sleeve across his mouth. It was already stained red. I think you were too harsh on Apollo, Helios said, shifting his eyes to the half-empty bottle of wine in his hands. Helios didn't drink, not anymore, but seeing the bottle in his hands at that moment tempted him more than ever. I've made my decision. I can't go back on it. Can't have people thinking I'm indecisive. A pain struck Helios in his heart. He knew Midas hadn't meant to take a jab at him. He was full of wine and hadn't realized the words he was using, but it still felt like a dagger twisting in his chest. Athena will make sure the job is done. The king rose from his throne. He shuffled forward and stumbled down the first step of the dais. Helios caught him before he hit the second. Huh, who moved those steps? King Midas chuckled. Helios shifted his arm under Midas's and helped him down the remaining steps. They stopped at the bottom. Midas's eyes were glazed over as he stared at a spot on the floor. Seeing him standing there, so defiant, so full of passion, he reminds me of her too much, Helios. Midas fell silent. Helios knew who was thinking of her. He'd often get that faraway look on his face, when nothing could rouse him. Helios felt it too sometimes. Tell me, what were her last words again? Helios gripped the bottle in his hand so tight it almost burst. She said, he will save us all. Midas sighed. A blissful smile grew across his face. It's true, those were Selene's last words, but there was more to it than that. Helios let Midas believe what he wanted to of those words. Helios helped Midas outside the doors of Offa Hall. He shrugged out from Helios's grasp and stumbled down the passageway to his sleeping quarters. "Good night, Helios," Midas said, waving his hand like he was slowly swatting away a fly. "Sleep well, my king." Helios watched as Midas entered his sleeping quarters. Helios came to Daedalus's elevator, the main elevator to the surface. The guards on duty were Linus and Pyrrhos, two guardsmen he'd trained several years ago at the academy. Perhaps not particularly well, as they were both leaning against the wall, sound asleep. Helios decided to let them sleep. He'd take the stairs instead. Helios made his way to the end of the passage and started to climb. He realized something was still in his hand, the half-empty wine bottle he'd taken from Midas. He tilted the bottle from side to side and watched the ruby-red liquid swish against the glass and dribble down as he tilted it away. The night had been one he'd rather forget, so he took a sip. The wine drizzled down his throat, warming his body as it seeped into his blood and pumped its way through his body. He took another sip from the bottle. His feet grew lighter. Every step was like landing on a soft cloud. As he continued, each step bringing him closer to the surface, each sip brought back memories. It had been over 12 years since his last drink, and 12 years since he'd last seen his sister alive. The songs of laughter and joy rang out through the fields. The sweet sense of fresh blossoms drifted through the air. Colour danced all around as the festival of the harvest moon began. Arcus had been chosen to host that year, and the king wanted it to be nothing less than the celebration of the year. It had been a plentiful harvest, with people from all across Arcadia coming to sell their wares, feast on the bounty, and enjoy the entertainment. King Midas was fulfilling his duties, and after putting young Artemis to bed, Queen Selene and the children were off to enjoy the festivities. Helios was by his sister's side. As her royal queen's guard, it was his duty to protect her at all times. He didn't mind the job. He would have done anything to protect his sister anyway, but this way he got to see his nieces and nephews more often than he would have, leading a battalion. Selene wore a flowing silver dress that danced in the wind as she walked. Her feet were bare. They usually were. She always said how she liked the feel of fresh grass on her feet. The only ornament she wore was a gold chain around her neck that had a clear teardrop-shaped crystal that had wisps of gold light inside of it, a family heirloom that had been given to her by their grandfather. Selene held Apollo's hand. He'd only just turned 6 and was attending his first festival. He kept stopping and staring and darting left and right, but Selene kept a firm grasp of his hand. Athena and Ares were 12 and 11, and had run up ahead of them. They'd been to many festivals before all over Arcadia, and were anxious to get lost in the fun and excitement of it all. They'd caught up with Athena and Ares at a booth. It had a game set up where the participant used a fixed slingshot to hurl chalked rocks at a target to win the prize the target was on. Selene stood back and watched as Athena shot 3 red chalked stones at a target, which sat in front of a short sword. The target was quite small, and Athena missed every shot. Helios watched as Selene's shoulders relaxed. Athena had been at the Arcadian Guard Academy for 2 years now, but she still only used a wooden training sword. Athena had 2 more stones left. She aimed her second-to-last stone at a slightly bigger target, beside a small wooden shield with a roaring lion's head painted on it. Athena drew back the sling and flung the stone. It shot past, just nicking the side, leaving a red residue on the target. "Sorry, milady, you need to hit the center," the game operator said, tapping the red-painted center of the target with his knuckles. Athena shot a glare at him, scrunching up her nose. Helios held his tongue. It wasn't his place to scold her impoliteness, especially not in public. Athena huffed. She crouched down, drew back the stone, and took aim. She let go of the stone. It hurtled through the air and whacked bang in the center of the target. "Bravo, my lady!" The game operator took down the shield and handed it over to her. Athena snatched it from his hands. Selene leaned over and squeezed Athena's shoulder. "Well done, dear," she said with her soft, gentle voice. But I think you forgot to say something to the gentleman. Athena scrunched up her nose. Selene tilted her head. Athena rolled her eyes. She turned to the game operator. "Thank you, sir," she said. Selene patted Athena's arm. Ares tugged at Selene's dress. "Mother, what's that?" Helios followed Ares' finger as he pointed. A young girl with chestnut brown hair pulled into 2 braids was eating a toffee apple. "That, my son, is a girl." A warm smile drew across Selene's face. It was infectious. Helios couldn't help but smile too. "She's beautiful." Ares stared at the girl, his mouth hanging open. "You should go over and talk to her." Ares screwed up his nose. "What if she doesn't want to talk to me?" "Well, you'll never know if you don't try." Ares looked up at his mother, then back to the girl. He brushed his hands through his hair and took in a deep breath, his chest puffing out. Selene hunched down and whispered, "Don't forget to breathe out," poking his puffed-up cheeks. Ares chuckled and let out a breath. He walked over to the girl. "Young love," Selene said to Helios with a smile. They watched as Ares chatted to the girl. He made her laugh. She made him blush. "Mother, mother!" Athena ran over. "Let's go see the melee. Sir Macedon the mountain lion is about to start." Athena pulled at her mother's free hand. "They say that one time he ripped out his opponent's throat with his teeth." Athena bared her teeth. Selene lowered herself so her face was level with Athena's. "Now, Athena, you know it's Apollo's first time at the festival, and I don't want him seeing that kind of thing. I don't know how you convinced your father to take you, but I won't be letting Apollo go see that gruesome sport." Athena wrinkled her face and crossed her arms. "But I want to go." "Sweetheart, Apollo's not old enough for that yet. Why don't you come with us to the puppet show?" Athena huffed. "Apollo's a stupid baby." "Athena, mind your tongue." "He is." Athena shoved Apollo. He fell onto the trampled muddy grass and began to cry. Selene sprung to his aid and wrapped him in her arms. "Apollo, are you all right?" Athena laughed and ran off. "Shall I go after her?" Helios asked, as he helped Selene and Apollo to their feet. Selene sighed. "No, let her go. She'll be finding her riding privileges revoked when she gets home." Helios nodded. "You okay, soldier?" Helios said to Apollo. He had the same striking blue eyes as his mother, except at that moment they were glistening with tears. "Athena is bad," Apollo said. "No, she's not bad," Selene said, as she brushed off Apollo's stained trousers. "She just does bad things sometimes." "Sometimes," Helios muttered under his breath. Selene shot him a look that could freeze time. Helios averted his gaze to his boots, making sure they were still tied. "Is anything broken?" Apollo looked over himself. "I don't think so. Can you do this?" Selene flung her head back and mimicked laughing out loud. Apollo giggled. He copied Selene. "I can." "Then let's go and watch the puppet show." Selene took Apollo by the hand. "You can come too, brother." A slight smile passed across Helios's face.